Hi, I'm Todd Haimes. I'm the artistic director of Roundabout, and our season is off to a roaring start. We have Man for All Seasons currently playing at the American Airlines Theater with, I think, an extraordinary performance by Frank Langella, one of the great stage actors of our generation. And it's been a huge success for us, and it's been a delight having Frank back. And it's a great fall for him because the movie of Frost Nixon, which he stars in, the movie version of the play that he won the Tony for, opens in early December, and the advance word has been very, very exciting. So it's just an exciting time to have Frank around the theater. We have Streamers currently in previews at the Laura Palace Theater. Streamers is the first revival of one of David Rabe's great plays, considered one of his Vietnam trilogy plays. And it's a play we've tried to do for several years, and David was very reticent about having it revived in New York City. But finally, through the efforts of Scott Ellis, our director, my associate and our director of this production, he convinced David that this play should be seen. And I think he's right. I think it's a fabulous production that Scott has done, and it's a beautiful play, sad play, but a powerful play and a beautiful play. Not really so much about war, but about the pressures that young men face in a barracks when they're about to go to war, and it's a little bit about race relations and a little bit about prejudice and class relations. It's sort of a universal play, I guess made more timely by the fact that the country's at war now, but that really wasn't part of our agenda. It's just a great play from its period. It's being done in period, 1965. Coming up next, we're in rehearsals, is Pal Joey. First revival on Broadway of that play in decades. This production has a particular significance to me because Richard Greenberg has done a stunning adaptation of the book. I've been trying to do this play literally for almost 10 years, and the rights have been tied up with various other people trying to produce it. And finally, after 10 years, Roundabout has the rights to produce the first Broadway revival with Richard Greenberg's stunning new adaptation, directed by Joe Mantello, who directed Assassins for us, and many other things, Wicked, and starring an old friend of Roundabout's, Stockard, who was in the first big success that Roundabout had after I joined in 1983, which was Joe Egg, which I think she won the Tony Award for, and obviously has gone on to many, many successes after that. Martha Plimpton, who many people know is a great young actress, but many people don't know that she's a great musical theater performer, incredible voice, and she's playing the third lead. And Graziella Danielle, who I've admired for 40 years in terms of her choreography and direction, but has never worked at Roundabout, is making her Roundabout debut as a choreographer. So we have very, very high hopes, and that'll be at Studio 54, where I think a seedy nightclub will look particularly apropos, and very excited about the prospects for Pal Joey. One of the things I do in my job is sort of over the years accumulate lists in my head of who I'd love to work with. And sometimes I get to work with them, and sometimes I spend years chasing them and it never works out. But nevertheless, it's what I do. And high on that list is Mary-Louise Parker, who I've just watched since, I'll never forget the first time I saw her in Prelude to a Kiss with Alec Baldwin off-Broadway. And I thought, who is this woman? She was just so captivating. And needless to say, she's gone on to great, great success since then. But she's never worked at Roundabout. I've known her a little bit. But I decided about a year and a half ago that I thought she would be perfect as Hedda Gabler. And luckily, I spoke to her and she agreed. And we've gotten a director I've also been chasing for a few years named Ian Rickson, who just directed the highly acclaimed production of The Seagull on Broadway. He used to be the director of the Royal Court in London. And Ian wanted to commission a new adaptation. So Chris Shin, a very hot young American playwright, has written a new adaptation of Hedda, which I think is really great and perfect for Mary-Louise. It sticks to the story, but it's a little bit more contemporary feeling, and I think suits the kind of actress Mary-Louise Parker is to a T. And I think it really could be a definitive portrait of Hedda Gabler. And Michael Cerveris, also an old friend at Roundabout, is joining her in the production. At the American Airlines after Hedda Gabler is a play called The Philanthropist. Brings back two artists that I really wanted to work with again. Great writer, Christopher Hampton, who wrote Les Les Dangereuses from last season. I saw this play many years ago, and I've always adored it. And David Grinley, who directed Pygmalion last year, who adores this play. And we talked about it when he was doing Pygmalion. And finally, Matthew Broderick, who I've worked with before. And again, I think it's a perfect combination of play, director, and role. Matthew plays a professor in England struggling with his marriage and his social issues. And it's a very poignant, funny, sad play. And David Grinley, I think, will do a magnificent job with it. He knows the play really well. It'd be great to have Matthew back. At the Pels, at the same time, we'll be having a new play by Lisa Loomer called Distracted, which I think is extremely timely for anybody who has kids or knows anybody who has kids. It's really about parents' struggle with the contemporary issues that they seem to face today with ADD and all the associated issues with kids' attention spans and real or not so real mental issues. And it's very funny, but it's also a drama, and also I think will touch a nerve on anybody who's been around raising kids and in the last 20 years. And Cynthia Nixon, who was an old friend of Roundabout's on our board, was brilliant in The Women a number of years ago, is starring as the confused mother and distracted, trying to decide what's best for this child that she loves so much. So we're excited to be doing the New York debut of that with Mark Brokaw, who's directed for us many times. I think most recently probably Suddenly last summer and The Constant Wife. And he'll be directing that at the Pels. And then I guess finishing our season, a production I'm really excited about. First time we've ever done Beckett, oddly. Waiting for Godot. Obviously an existential classic. But what excites me so much is that I think two of the great clowns of our entire generation are starring in it. Bill Irwin and Nathan Lane. They're so different in terms of their acting styles, and yet both of them have a humor and a sadness and a poignancy and a deepness and a flipness that should make this sort of classic comedy, if you want to call Waiting for Godot a comedy. I think it should make it really crackle. And Anthony Page, a great British director who last directed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf on Broadway, who knows the play intimately, knew Beckett quite well, is directing this production at Studio 54. And it'll be really cool to have Nathan and Bill back on stage at Roundabout at the same time, sparring and Waiting for Godot. So I think it's an exciting season. Obviously, as with any theatrical season, some of them turn out better than you expected, some of them not quite as good, but we do the best to have a well-rounded offering and to bring the great artists who are working in our business today to the Roundabout stage.